Morning, everybody. So we're going to have our panel this morning, a very informative panel on the various payment protection programs that are available to all of us. I know that everybody here is obviously a member of LACMA, IAM, and many of us are members of FIDI, and we have representatives from each association here today to explain the details of the various payment protection programs that they have, how do they work, and how do we get the most out of them. It should be very informative. We've got Brian Limperopulos from IAM, Lydia and Evelyn Jaen. Please come join us on stage to help us through this. The way it'll work this morning is that each one will give a short presentation about each program, and then we'll get into some questions from me and from the group as well. So keep your questions ready, and we'll dig in. Lydia, will you start us off, please?
Okay, I'm starting. So, good morning, everyone. As John, he kind of stole my line there. I was going to say the same thing, that as members of FIDI, IAM, and LACMA, you all have access to payment protection. But not everyone is using it, and you can benefit in many ways from the payment protection programs. So today, we're going to lay out what each program involves and give you simple steps so that you can go home and use the systems more confidently and integrate it into your credit control processes. Now, at FIDI, actually, our FASI program, that's our payment protection program, it's really like a last resort situation. We have financial scrutiny systems in place that ensure that we have a very healthy FIDI community in terms of financial health. In the first instance, we do a FAME financial assessment. So every single member in the FIDI community has to pass an assessment conducted by EY, and they have to score as a low credit risk. So what this means in principle is the members that we have are financially healthy, so you can work with each other knowing there's some protection to send your shipment and to be paid. The FAME financial assessment from a FIDI point of view, that allows us to identify any problems with a company that may be going bankrupt or has serious, indicators by having a critical credit risk score that they may go into liquidation. We cancel their affiliation. So we do that to protect the wider FIDI community, and in turn, that protects our payment protection fund, because we can identify very quickly if there's a problem with a company, and that limits how much we have to pay out of our fund. So for example, this year for 2024, we're only paying out around 50,000 euros. According to our cap, we could pay up to 800,000 euro out in a year. So we think this is very good, and a lot of the reason the last couple of years we have low payouts is linked to the financial assessment. The financial assessment also allows us to create an annual report so we can see how things are doing in the industry. So we can look at the overall profit, we can drill down per country how things are going. The report for 2024, that should be available in the next couple of weeks. And all of you, whether you're a FIDI member or not, can download that from the FIDI website. It's an interesting read, so maybe on the plane home it might be ready. Next, our next pillar is really about protecting our members against late payment behaviour. So we have our new FIDI netting system, which is a fantastic system. We have about 150 sign-ups right now, and that's growing all the time. And what that does is it protects your cash flow. It's going to revolutionise how our members pay each other, because it's a monthly payment cycle. What we envisage is, once a few cycles have been going, because it's still quite new, is that it will facilitate quicker payments between our members. The system offers fantastic savings for currency exchange rates. As a federation, we have a lot of buying power. You know, we've got 600 members worldwide. So all our members, we did some simulations, they can benefit from significant savings just by using the FIDI netting system. And every FIDI member pays for the system, so if you haven't signed up yet, please have a word with me after this session. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about the netting, so back to FASI. The first part of our FASI payment protection is it protects against late payments as well. So I'm going to cover that in a minute. And then obviously our third pillar is the actual FASI fund when we have to compensate if an affiliate loses its affiliation and they no longer pay their bills or they can't. That's when the FASI fund kicks in. Now, you hear me saying FASI, and some of you might have no idea what I'm saying, so with my best Yorkshire accent as well. So the abbreviation is FIDI Affiliate Secured Invoices. Our members secure their invoices in the FASI platform. It's an automated system. It's super easy to use. You just upload your invoice. You have to confirm it's undisputed. We have a dispute resolution scheme in case of disputes. That's another service that's very efficient, but it's not FASI. And that gets logged in our system. Now, the way this works, imagine you've performed your moving services, you've issued your invoice, so you've got your agreed payment terms in the invoice, and payment hasn't happened. Maybe it was a 30-day payment term, maybe 60 days. That's up to you. It's your credit control. But once you reach the agreed payment term, you haven't been paid. The friendly thing to do would be, of course, to maybe call your partner, ask them, you know, this invoice hasn't been paid, send a reminder or two. If the invoice is 75 to 105 days old, that's when you can upload it into the FASI platform. Now, honestly, as a FIDI member, that would be the best business decision you could do. There's a misconception that reporting to FASI is a bit like reporting to the FIDI police. We're not the police, and this service is, you know, paid for by all the members, and it's extremely efficient. 9 times out of 10, your payment will come through within a few days. By using FASI, basically, you're just putting your invoice on the top of the pile for payment on your partner's desk. You know, you don't need to be afraid to report. You're not going to lose a business relationship over it. One of my top tips that I give members is if you include on your invoice a line that says that you know, it's your business process to report to FASI, I include it on the FIDI membership invoice. You can look at that as a template. If you put that on all your invoices, there's no hidden surprises for your partner. So it's extremely effective, and you're very likely to get paid using the system. 98% of the invoices that are reported into the system are paid within 30 days. So it's almost guaranteed your payment. If it's not paid, because there's many consequences, you know, if you've got bad payment behavior, usually it's paid on time, and if it's not paid, then you're protected by the FASI fund afterwards. Now, the second part about FASI protection, so like I mentioned, it's a twofold protection. This is when we compensate through the FASI fund. So in this scenario, a company leaves FIDI. Maybe they go into liquidation or administration, they might lose their FAME certification, or they may voluntarily resign but leave debts with their partners and with FIDI. In this situation, we issue a FIDI flash notice, and it details the legal entity and the locations that are involved. If there's affiliated branches in more than one city, that's listed in the FIDI flash. And you have 30 days to upload your invoices in the FASI platform. They need to meet the same requirements, like 75 to 105 days from the invoice date, but you will then be paid out from the FASI fund. Now, I just mentioned about the FIDI flash. I'm going to give a good tip also for all of you, I think for all our payment protection programs, is before you accept to do a job, please make sure that the legal entity and address match the membership directory, whether it be IEM, LACMA or FIDI. We have so many cases of members that have invoiced a different entity, they've been asked by their partner to invoice a different location, and that's not covered. So right at the beginning, please make that part of your processes or advise your accounting team to always double check the directory, because that's got the latest information. Otherwise, when you come to this situation, you could, lose out, unfortunately. A couple of things I wanted to mention about getting compensated from the FASI fund are the way it differs from getting the monies from your affiliate partner is that we only do an annual payout. So what this means is if you let debts accumulate, a lot of debts accumulate against one of your partners, you're potentially risking your cash flow and your liquidity, because even if you report your invoices in FASI, the payout will only be normally in March or April the following year. If you were to report an invoice next week, you're most likely going to have to wait 12 months to be paid out. So just keep that in mind. As entrepreneurs, you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on debts. We also have a cap on that as well. And then also to mention, we have a 10% administration fee, because each of us has different administration fees. We apply that because we work with IEM and LACMA to make sure there's no double or triple payments. We also work with debt collection agencies if a former member is still trading and they owe money, to recover the money for our affiliates to go back into the FASI fund. We potentially work with company administrators, and it just makes sense that the affiliates who are getting paid out from our FASI system pay that administration charge instead of, increasing the membership fee for everyone. So that's just to keep in mind. We say that it's up to 90% because we have some caps. We haven't actually reached them before, but potentially if a very big booker were to lose its affiliation and we have a lot of claims in FASI, we can only cover up to 350,000 euros. So again, this goes back to what I was saying before. Just make sure you are keeping an eye on your own credit control. I think we'll all say the same for our payment protection systems. It's not an insurance, it's not an all-risk insurance. The coverage at FIDI is pretty high, but you still have to look after your own risks, And just finally, if you want any more information, for affiliates, you can go to fidinet.org. And we also have a dedicated email address. Marie-Pascale Fricks in our office is the one looking after FASI. So she looks after that mailbox. And for those of you that are not FIDI members, our FIDI website has some information on it. And I would advise you, it's really useful to visit our FIDI Focus website as well. Everyone can view for free our FIDI Focus magazine. We have the back catalogue there, and in every issue we cover our FIDI services, and there's a lot of other interesting information in there as well. So that's it from me for now, and thank you.
Okay, I will explain a few points of the LACMA Payment Guarantee Program. Okay, the LACMA Guarantee Program is a program established by LACMA back in 2005, where the members could get a compensation for unpaid invoice of other members when a member is expelled due to non-payment or other ethical reason, if the member ceases operation, or if the company goes bankrupt. The LACMA Payment Guarantee Program is mandatory for all active and associate members. Industry suppliers do not go into the LACMA Payment Guarantee Program. In LACMA, the head offices are responsible for their affiliates within that country. Subsidiaries outside the country of the affiliate must pay separate affiliation and Payment Guarantee Program fees. And the LACMA Payment Guarantee Program is managed annually, and it's monitored by the LACMA Board of Directors and the LACMA Secretariat. The LACMA Guarantee Program only covers the removals and transportation of international household goods shipments and personal effects. It does not cover art, general cargo, long-term permanent storage, claims, damages, duties, ancillary services, which are those related like insurance to the international movement. What the LACMA Payment Guarantee Program is not. It is not an insurance. You must control your credit limits to your agents. You must monitor your accounts payables. So each affiliate has a responsibility to keep your credit terms online and do your diligence collecting from the members that owe you invoices. Please bear in mind that when so many members present claims, the fund has a limit, and if the fund is not enough to cover all the invoices, you will be covered based on a prorated basis. The invoices will be covered based on a prorated basis. So you may not receive the 100% back of your invoice. So it's important to keep track of the accounts receivables and your credit terms be controlled. Our three associations have various reporting windows. LACMA's reporting window is from 60 to 105 days. As of the 60th day, you may present the claim to LACMA. LACMA will process the claim, and in 99% of the cases, the claims have been paid within 15 days. LACMA allows 15 days. If not, it allows an extended 15 days. But most of them are covered and are paid back within 15 days. At this present time, the compensation fund that LACMA has for each debtor is $50,000. Out of those $50,000, there is a deductible of 10%. Therefore, the payout will be yearly $45,000. Now, this payout or this limit of compensation will vary throughout the years depending on the amount the fund has accumulated, and the board will review and increase it along the years to see if a better compensation is provided to all the members. At the moment, it's $50,000. In LACMA, we monitor the claims very closely, and like I said, they are paid usually within 15 days. And if we have a frequent offender or a company that frequently receives claims against them, LACMA monitors them, and the Payment Guarantee Program's regulations have a chart which indicate that if an offender has a certain amount of claims for a certain amount of money claimed within a 6-month period, LACMA will request an additional guarantee. And that guarantee will not be returned until 2 years have passed and the company has not received any other claims. If the company goes bankrupt or ceases operations or if expelled, that guarantee goes into the LACMA Payment Guarantee Program for compensation to the debtors if the company ceases operations, bankrupt, like I said. The program is well explained in our, if you go to our LACMA webpage, there is a page of the statutes and the regulations of our programs. Please go into the website, download the regulations, and study them. I really recommend that all of you know the rules. Most of the invoices that are not covered when we come into an expulsion or a bankruptcy is because they are not reported within the 60 to 105 days. And it's very disappointing to many of you, I know, but we have to follow the regulations. So go into the webpage, download it, read it, and pass that information, that knowledge to your financial staff, because sometimes also it is kept within the top management, and the financial team does not know the rules, and obviously then they don't report within the time. That's it on my side.
Okay, all right. There is Limperopulos International Association of Movers. There's a lot that has been already said by Lydia and Evelyn that I'll cover on pretty quickly, but I know John's got a few questions, and I want to make sure we get to what he wants to share with that. But I want to cover our IAM's payment protection program, the receivable protection program. And I want to start with the why. And I think one thing I want to emphasize here is that the three associations, we work together on a yearly basis. We are sharing information and saying, what are you seeing over here? Do we have common unpaid invoice debts from members across our three organizations? We are sharing that information because the main purpose is we want to make all of you whole. Okay, you pay good money to belong to our associations, and I think that's a basic expectation. The other part of the why is we want, all three of our organizations have a fundamental desire to ensure that we have a financially healthy industry. Now, we can't manage your receivables. You have to do that. But part of today's exercise is to show you what is available through your associations and hope that you will take this information back and use it at your company. So receivable protection program, very similar to FASI and the PGP. This is a program or a process through which an IAM member can recover unpaid funds from other members. There are three main elements to the RPP. It is really how we intervene on your behalf to recover money for your company, how we notify you when a company is not playing by the rules, essentially, or is going through those cash flow issues and cannot make payments to the network, and then finally, what happens when a company cannot make those payments and it triggers our compensation. So to get into how we intervene, it starts with reporting. And you've heard it from Lydia, you've heard it from Evelyn. We need you to report. We can't do anything until you tell us what is happening at your company. What are you seeing in the network? Where are you not getting paid invoices from? We can't do anything until that point. So let me click through. So a few things here. I think I can't really read those, so I'll just kind of, all right, I'll look over here. So it is available to all members. Even our issue resolution system is even open to non-members, to be honest. We want to know if a company is not paying their invoices. Now, we can't intervene on behalf of everybody, but we want to get that information. We want to know if a company is not paying invoices. We want to know if a company is misusing our name or trademark. So there's all sorts of things that can be done through this issue resolution system. It's not just unpaid invoices, but this is a very simple interface through which you can report what is owed to your company and to trigger IAM now to take action. As I said, it's really for trade issues. So any issue between members, it's not just trademark or IAM's name, unpaid invoices. This is also used for ethics issues and operational disputes. So if you're seeing any of those issues with your company, with another member, you can report that to IAM. And then we too have strict timelines to encourage timely resolution. IAM will begin intervening depending on certain situations within 30 days. If a company is an IAM trusted moving company, they've made certain representations to the network, we can start working on those issues right away. Now, if we're talking about the Receivable Protection Program for the wider, the 2,200 member companies of IAM, you can file your, report your invoices anytime before 120 days past due. 120 days is the key timeline for IAM. Now, we are working with our partners at LACMA and FIDI about harmonizing things. One of those things might be the reporting timelines. IAM's is still currently set at 120 days. So look at those invoice dates. Make sure you're tracking them. If they're getting past due 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you gotta let us know. Otherwise, if it gets past 120 days, we can't do anything for you. That's full stop. And I know that's the same for FIDI and LACMA. If you get past that 105-day timeline, they can't help you. Report, report, report. That is one thing that I want to emphasize coming out of today. So we talk about intervening, and IAM, there is a set process through how we intervene on behalf of our members. It's a set of 3 notifications. But what happens when a company has not been responsive to those interventions? And this is where it ends up on our alert system and our alleged debtor list. So this is our current alleged debtor list right now. That's up on our website. This is updated in real time. Okay, these are the companies who, after we have done our due diligence and exercise our due process in notifying them that they owe money to a partner in the network, they have not taken steps to resolve that issue, and now it's time for us to let the IAM network know. And actually, this is publicly available. We want to spread this information so that others can make the proper decisions and to whom to extend credit. These are important decisions, and we want this information to travel far and wide. So we talk about intervention, we talk about notification, and there's all sorts of, if I go back here, I'm not going to belabor the point because I know John wants to talk, but there's all sorts of information on here that I think is very helpful to your business, okay? It's not just negative. These are the companies who are entering IAM as well. Prospective member lists down at the very bottom. New member lists. You have a role in the prospective member list. If a company is coming into the membership who you do not believe lives up to the standards of an IAM member, then you need to let us know. And we have certain guidelines that, if you click that button, it will tell you what the strict guidelines are. But we need to hear from you. We currently have an issue right now in Portugal that we are adjudicating. So that's where I appreciate the Portuguese members advising IAM, and we are working through that as we speak. So RPP compensation, very straightforward. We will pay you if your invoice is not paid by others. Now, when does that happen? So one big distinction between FIDI and LACMA and IAM. If a company is expelled from FIDI and LACMA, they will pay out through FASI and PGP. IAM only pays out after a company has either declared bankruptcy or ceased to exist. Now, again, we are looking at how we extend that to expulsion, but we're not at that point yet. So I want to emphasize that point. If you belong to not just IAM, but FASI and PGP, make sure you're letting the entire, each of the payment protection programs know. Our coverage is a yearly protection up to $20,000 US per company. Now, we have other compensation limits in place. our yearly compensation cap total is 50% of the available funds in the Receivable Protection Program Reserve Fund, which is roughly $750,000 right now. So we're about $300,000 is our yearly compensation total cap right now. For the fiscal year 2024, we are looking at paying out roughly $250,000 to settle qualified claims submitted in the year 2024. Timeline, file within 120 days of the invoice date. 120 days for IAM. And then there is no deductible for IAM. We are looking at harmonizing again with our partners at FIDI and LACMA, but right now there is no deductible. So if you submit a $10,000 US invoice to IAM and we approve it, you're gonna get $10,000 US back. There would be nothing taking off the top there. Now that might change in the future, but that's the program as it stands today. And I'm sure I've missed a few things, but we'll have questions. A few key things to keep in mind. Here's a link, and I hope it shows up. If you want to learn how to file, this is a link. This QR code takes you to our IAM issue resolution system webpage. This is where you start the process to let us know if you have an unpaid invoice, if you have another issue with another member. One point I want to emphasize, you can file confidentially. IAM wants to know what's happening in the industry. We want to know what's happening in the network, and we recognize sometimes people do not want to endanger a business partnership. In that moment, only myself and my colleague Morgana Summers can see that information. The key thing is, if you file confidentially, you can't expect IAM to take any action. But what we can do is use that for the future. You can get it on the record for RPP compensation so that in the event that that partner goes out of business or declares bankruptcy, it is on the record, so you will be paid. So if you do not want IAM to intervene and potentially endanger a business partnership, you can file confidentially. And that is our default setting when you file in the issue resolution system. 120 days to file. Obviously, if it gets to the point where we are approving this invoice, we have to audit it. We have to confirm that it's a legitimate service and it's done within the parameters of the program, which has like a 20-page document behind it. I won't go into all those details, but you will have to back up your claim. So I think that's all for me. I'll turn it back to John and answer any questions.
Thank you all for the rundowns. I actually learned a few new things already this morning, so thank you for that. Lydia, you mentioned some of the things that FOSI does cover, but can you go through some of the exclusions? What are some of the things that you commonly see that it will not cover that are brought to you?
Sure. So our exclusions actually match what Evelyn puts on screen. Many of the exclusions are the same. When using FASI, you have to really think it's for the actual international moving service. So, for example, we don't cover claims because you have insurance for that. We don't cover port and custom charges, so again, the same as LACMA. Demurrage is covered up to €1,000. We have the same policy for storage as well. We cover storage in transit, but only up to 3 months. Anything beyond that is considered permanent storage, so it's not covered. One element that I didn't notice on your list is we also have an element for domestic move services. They're covered as long as they were booked by your partner. Otherwise, it's not covered. But yeah, otherwise they're very similar. Yeah. And then also, we have caps as well, which are a bit different. Maybe I'll mention quickly. For example, the maximum debtor cap that we have is 100,000. So you can, you have to be careful to not let debts increase uncontrollably. Otherwise, it's your liability. to take some of the responsibility. So if you run up a debt of 200 or 300,000 euros, we can only pay a maximum 100,000. And we also have a maximum of 350,000 euros. If a company loses its affiliation, that's the maximum we can pay out, I mentioned earlier. And from our FASI fund, we have around 2 million euros, and we can pay out 40% on an annual basis.
Thank you. Brian, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just on the inclusions versus exclusions. So IAM, we restructured our membership categories in 2023. And we basically said, we have a bunch of suppliers as members, and we had an extra supplier member category, and we did away with that. We just said, if you're a member of IAM, you get to choose your own adventure. If you want to participate at this level, you can. If you want to participate at this level, you can go that way. As part of that, we restructured the inclusions for the RPP. So for instance, if you're a crating company and you've provided crating services, previously you could not claim for that. But it was a part of the service required to execute the international move. So we have added some supplier services into our receivable protection program. So if you are a supplier, some of those things are now covered above and beyond the international moving services, the door-to-door service that all of our programs cover.
Thank you. Brian, a lot of or some of your members have companies in multiple countries. So how does your protection program work for a company who's doing business for company A who has companies in multiple countries, and this location in this country is doing work for all of them? Are they covered if one of the countries isn't paying their bills? Are they covered through the HQ of that company? How does that work?
Yeah, I think Evelyn hit on this in her presentation with the PGP, and we're very similarly structured, I would say. IAM's membership so the RPP is a member-funded program. So if you're a member, you pay into the program. That's part of your dues. So if you're not a member, you're not paying into it, so we're not gonna pay out any money on it. And so IAM's membership is predicated on your location. And so if that location ordered the service, then they're on the hook. If that location that is a member ordered the service from another member, they're on the hook to pay that invoice. Now, if that company has branches in other locations, that's when it has to tie in. And Lydia, you may have said something along this line too. You need to check who you're trading with. Are you trading with that company who is a member, or are you not? Because I think with respect to all of our programs, if that company is not a member, we can't pay out on it. They have not paid into the fund, therefore we will not pay out on it, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
I would like to add something. It's important that you look into the web page and see who is a member. Don't take for granted that they are a member if their email or letterhead says they're a LACMA member or a FIDI member. We've had many cases where some companies not affiliated are illegally using the logo. So don't take it for granted because it's on their paper, on their email. You have to look into the web page to see if maybe they were at one time, but they disregarded to take off the logo. You have to check that periodically. It's very important.
Thanks, Evelyn. Evelyn, what do you think contributes to the success of the LACMA Payment Protection Program?
Well, I think the claims process we use. Our members can present their claims as soon as the invoices are 60 days overdue. And normally, we go through the process, they're paid in 15 days. If not, they're allowed another 15 days, most likely. And if they do not pay, they are expelled. They have to pay. If it's a valid invoice, we have reviewed it, they have to pay. If they don't pay, they are expelled, and then your invoice applies for the LACMA PGP compensation, which is usually done after the end of the fiscal year, within 2 or 3 months after January, February, March of the following year. So I think that the claims process that we do is really very important. Present your invoices. Don't be afraid to report a friend or a colleague that owes you money. Present the claim. This is confidential. It's only kept within the LACMA office. The board every 2-3 months reviews just to see if there's a frequent offender, if there's something we have to look for. And we do not know of any situation unless you report it. Like they said, report it. You have to report it. We receive a lot of comments saying, well, this company's financially in trouble, they owe me money. I said, okay, present the claim. And they don't want to present the claim. If we don't hear from you, if you don't report the invoices, there's no way we will know. So please do report it within each program's reporting time. The programs have some similarities, but they have a lot of differences. So look into all 3 of them, please.
We've got one more question before we open it up to the floor, so be ready. Lydia, can you explain why everybody pays in the same amount, regardless of the size of the business, whether they book 10 shipments in or thousands every year? Why does everybody pay the same?
Well, it's because FIDI really covers revenue at risk. So big bookers are not really putting their revenue at risk. You know, we often get this question like, why, you know, I'm a small company, why do I have to pay the same? The annual contribution is not so high. It's like €200 a year currently, and €150 for branches. But yeah, because as an entrepreneur, you're taking the risk when you're accepting to do the business with a partner, it's actually your revenue at risk. So this is why we have the same amount. All our rules and the amounts and so on are voted by our delegates meeting and our General Assembly. So everything's really black and white. There's no room for interpretation when it comes to FIDI's rules. And like Evelyn was just saying, we have similar penalties. If an invoice reaches 150 days, you lose your affiliation and so on. So everything's very black and white, and you can see that on our website.
Thank you.